call the, our June membership meeting to order. I'm going to ask for approval of minutes from the March meeting that were sent out and they're posted on our website. If there's a motion to do that, or questions about it, or
So moved.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, I'm gonna, you've got a copy of the agenda in front of you, but I'm gonna deviate from it a little bit. Because I'm the president and I can. And I will. Okay, we've got a special guest here tonight from the Solomon Volunteer Rescue and Fire Department. They're gonna talk to us about some upcoming possible plans for the fire department. I think it'll be very informative. So I'd like to start off with them and let them go through that and entertain any questions or anything from the audience and from the members. And then we can let them go on about their business or stay and heckle us or whatever they would like to do. So I'd like to introduce the president of the Solomon Volunteer Fire and Rescue Department, Terry Anderson, and he'll introduce the rest of the gang here and then give us a talk about it. And I think they've got a
Yeah, we have a presentation behind you.
presentation, so swivel around and
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Terry Anderson. I'm currently the president of Solomon Volunteer Rescue Fire Department. I've been with the firehouse for 7 years. I've been doing volunteers, not only at the firehouse, but I've been doing stuff at Little League and Little League for almost 15 years. Introduce my cohorts here. Chief Jonathan Dalrymple.
Hey, Jonathan Dowd, I've been volunteering in Calvert County for 22 years. I've been at Solomon's for the last 12 years.
Fire Captain Rick Hargrave.
Good evening, everybody. Retired off active duty right here in Lusby Town area in 2017. Been a member of the firehouse since 2015 and held various positions there.
Someone introduced from the county, Deputy Director of General Services,
Yep.
Tom Jones.
Yep. Tom Jones, worked for the county for 10 years, and in 11 years I'll be able to retire with everybody else.
And the Division Chief of Fire Rescue EMS Office, Jim Richardson.
How you guys doing? I've worked for the county in this position for 20 years and also been a volunteer for 38 years in Calvert County.
And we're going to conclude with the Assistant Chief, Joe Ford.
My name is Joe Ford, currently the Assistant Chief. I've been a member of Solomon's for about the last 25 years. I've been a chief officer in the department for probably about 12 years of that. And I'm a retired firefighter from Prince George's County. I work as a career EMS lieutenant for Calvert County. And I'll be the one doing the presentation.
I'm the Van White.
I'm going to be his Pat Sajak, he's going to be my Vanna White. Little backstory behind that, I'm a little bit color deficient on some colors, and we got some colors in here that he can pick out, and I can't necessarily. So if you see him up there pointing, just clap when he turns a letter. Going about our business. So things are a little bit tight in here, so I'm going to kind of stand off to the side a little bit. So what we're here tonight to talk to you about is our anticipated potential move of our fire department. Doesn't mean that we're leaving Solomon's. It means we're still going to be the Solomon's Volunteer Rescue Squad and Fire Department. However, we're looking at moving our facility a little farther north into the Lusby Town Center. All right, and we're going to give you the information and the facts that go along with that to show you why that move is necessary. In the end of this, we're looking for the community support. You can either support us, you can deny it. That's your choice. It's your freedoms. When it concludes, after we have our question and answer session, so people get the information and your questions answered, the county is going to pose a hand vote. They're going to take that hand vote back to our county commissioners so that they see that we have buy-in from our community. Currently, we've been to every HOA in the Solomon's Lusby area that we serve to get out to them, to be transparent, to let them know what's coming in the future, and to get the backing from you guys. Okay? So, this is posed as to move or not to move. All right, we've condensed this a little bit for you guys for the simple fact that it was pretty broad. All right, a lot of that stuff that we cut out of it was reasons why the station was deficient. Okay, and the county's also been in there and found the same deficiencies. So we know that we're slated for a new facility. The matter now is where that facility is going to be. And that's why we need your guys' buy-in. So we're going to bring you some statistics. We're going to talk a little about your ISO ratings, things like that, response times, the whole mess of it, just so you guys can see that we're meeting that and why the need is there to move our station. Okay? Maybe.
Might be far away. There you go.
All right. So we'll start a little bit with who are we? All right, so we formed our department in 1954. This gives you a little bit of where we've come from. Okay, we started on a little garage down on the island. Our company ran its first call in 1955, and we ran an ambulance. We ran an ambulance from Solomons almost all the way to North Beach, depending on it. And that was done by a phone call that came to that building and said, hey, we need an ambulance. All right, that was a Studebaker at that time. So just to show you the progression of how we've grown since then. All right, in 1955, we purchased a building, which, does everybody know where the Island Sushi is?
Yeah.
That was our original fire department. Okay, so we ran out of there in 1955 with the ambulance. All right, currently, once we moved to there, because of the apparatus that we started to obtain in the call volume that we had, we moved to our new facility where we currently are now, which is right there at Dow Road in Route 4. Okay? At that time, we were running about 1,000 calls a year. We had 67 members. Not all of them were active, but they could have been charter members, this, that, or the other. But back in that time frame, most of your people that were members were active all the time. Okay? We had 11 pieces of apparatus, which made us move so that we could house everything. All right? In 1990, we saw that we had a growth, which was in the Ranch Club. Okay? In 1990, because of that growth, we had to add a second story onto that building, which is in between our engine bays, and that gives us sleeping quarters and stuff, which we only had 4 or 5 bunks at the time. That increased it to about 11, because people were staying in the station. We also added a boat. If you think about our response areas, we've been all the way to the Bay Bridge, we've been all the way to the Potomac, all the way to Prince George's County up in the river. So that's a huge area to cover with us by boat for responsibilities. And when you look at our first due area, we cover 29 square miles. So when we talk about first dues, that's what we service as the first due company. Okay, so we go from just south of White Sands at Pardo Road, all the way to the tip of the island, all the way east and west. All right, so that gives you our response area that we cover. All right, as of last year, we ran approximately 4,000 calls. We've been the busiest company in Calvert County for about the last 10 years. Okay, we've got 19 pieces of apparatus now, all right, which leads to, again, we've outgrown our facilities. Let's go back one. So also, about 1995, I think it was, we also built a substation. If everybody knows where Little Cove Point Road is, we have a little satellite station there. That station currently houses an engine company, and periodically an ambulance and a brush unit, okay? That station was built solely, back in the day, for home response, which means people come from their house to that substation, pull the apparatus out, and respond to calls. All right, there's 2 beds in there at this point, and we house an engine company out of there right now because we're so busy. All 3 of our ambulances are now down at our main station, which is where you get all your EMS service out there. So we look at one facility versus 2. That substation was built to satisfy, which is an ISO rating. That's what you pay for your insurance premium. Okay, and that's based off of a bunch of different things. How fast we move water, how fast we get there, what our training levels are, the whole 9 yards. Okay, you guys here are considered a non-hydrant area. Even though you have dry hydrants, there's 3 in the drum point area, you still don't have 100% hydrant, which is every 800 feet apart, okay, like they do in some other areas. So your rating is going to stay the same until you get fire hydrants in here, all right? Other folks that are in hydrant areas, this could potentially decrease by moving, all right? So we considered a little bit of that. So what we're looking at doing is taking 2 stations and compressing them down into 1, which means 1 centralized location. That facility that we're looking at would be right next to the Ace Hardware. Okay, that brings us and satisfies to combine both stations, and we still meet that 5-mile radius driving miles to get to wherever we need to go from one end of our area all the way to the next. So construction costs is something else that we looked at. Around 2011, we started moving in this project and started looking at things and areas and all that stuff. We looked at the cost of 2 facilities. Both of those stations are deficient to the point that they don't have fire protection systems in them. They don't have a lot of things that NFPA requires to live in a fire station. All right? NFPA is the National Fire Protection Agency, so they pretty much encompass the entire United States and tell you what type of fire truck you have to have, what has to be on it, what training levels you have to have, and it encompasses a huge thing, and that includes firehouses. Okay? So we don't meet those codes. We also don't meet some county standards because our building is not ADA compliant. All right, for the seniors that we have in our station, for handicap and things like that. Not all of our assets are under one roof. So currently, our main station is a full-service station. That means you get a pumper, which is a small fire engine. We have a pumper tanker that we run first due on non-hydrant areas like here, because it has a bigger capacity of water. We have a ladder truck. We have a rescue squad. We have 3 ambulances, a brush unit. What else? A couple utilities, a UTV, a Zodiac boat, and a fire boat. At the other station, we house an engine company. So you don't have a full-service station coming out of the other station. All right, we're trying to incorporate everything together to bring it together so we have one full-service station, if that makes sense to you guys. So not all of our personnel are under one roof. What does that mean? That means that the majority of our personnel as volunteers come to our main station because any type of call that we get, they have the ability to respond out of there, whatever it is. If we go to our satellite station where there's only an engine company, if they call for a tanker or a pumper tanker, a ladder truck or a rescue squad, now they have to come from one facility down to the next to get on that apparatus to get it out the door. All right, additional 8 to 12 minutes, and that's travel time depending on traffic and time of day and all that stuff. The same token is if we're out with all of our ambulances in one company, now we have to go to that station, which prolongs the response time to get there and then to get back to you as a citizen. That's what we just talked about, the substation for a 3rd ambulance, or to get from there to get a ladder truck out. We're adding 8 to 12 minutes onto our response time. National response times run anywhere between, I think, is it 5 to 10 minutes? Is the national response time average from door to door. Maintenance costs of 2 facilities. So we have a budget at our main station and we have a budget at our substation. We're looking to combine both of those together to one facility. That's also going to eliminate construction costs to bring the satellite station up to standards and also bring the main station up to standards, which brings us to one place where we can bring everything together and have one maintenance budget, compress into one facility, and keep all of our stuff under one roof. We talk about readiness of apparatus. So if there happens to not be somebody at the substation on a normal day, when we show up at the station, we check the ambulances off, we check the fire trucks off, we look to make sure that our packs are ready and all of that stuff. Not all the time does that necessarily get done when we have to travel between 2 stations because we run 10 to 20 calls a day, which doesn't allow us to do that time. If we're in quarters, it shortens that up some, so when we are in quarters, we have the opportunity to make sure that the apparatus is 100% ready every day. So to tie this all together, in 2014, Calvert County did a study, and they looked at St. Leonard Fire Department, they looked at Prince Frederick Fire Department, or Rescue Squad, they looked at our substation on Little Cove Point Road, they looked at our main station. This came from an outside independent study that the county had paid for. So to break it down, just so you guys don't have to read it, what this states for our main station is that the station needs to be rebuilt, and it also states that it needs to be put into a central area of our first due area, which covers that 29 square miles. All right, so this isn't something that we necessarily just want. This is actually a need for the community. So someone else has also identified it. That's just our main facility. This one, long-term, is for the substation. Says the exact same thing. Says the station doesn't meet current standards, that it needs to be rebuilt completely, and then it needs to move to a central location. Again, bringing both stations together. All right, so this was done in 2014. All the Calvert County Commissioners signed off on it at that point, stating that they understood it. Now we're here today where we're actually starting to get funding to potentially move, or at least to get a building. So if we look at our box areas, and this is where I'm going to go to my banner, all right, because of colors. What this identifies is our area is broken down into 13 different boxes. You currently live in the 312 box. Okay, the Ranch Club is 309, 310, 311. If you look out by Fast Stop, that's our 304. The other side of Route 4 is 303, and then 302 is Dow Road, and then the island itself is 301. The plant holds its own, and then they go higher. 306 is Cove Point, 307 is Millbridge Road area up north, and then our 308 box is all the way at the very end of H.E. Truman Road. So that kind of gives you how that box area is broken out. Okay? And what this is going to show you is where the busiest area is in, and I'm going to let Vanna talk on this one.
All right, so like Chief Ford's saying, we got 13 different box assignments within our purview. So if you look right here, you want to know where White Sands is? All right? So White Sands is right here. Everything south of that to the bridge is covered by us. All right? So everything in purple is 399 calls or more. The gold, which you guys are in, 312, is anywhere from 125 to 199. The red is 200 to 399, and the green's a little lower. All right? So you can see the majority of our call volume is centralized in this area.
That area being the Lusby Town Center. Drum Point, the Ranch Club, and that area.
Right here. So that's what, this is the whole county-wide, but focus there.
All right, so you probably all can't see this, but what this pretty much identifies is, as of last month, when we got our statistics from fire rescue, Solomon's itself ran 27% of Calvert County's entire call volume. So there's 9 stations total, counting the dive unit. All right, so there's 9 stations. Out of those 9 stations, we're 27%. There's 8 left to run the rest of the calls in the county. So that shows you how much busier we are. And it's most of those companies like St. Leonard, they come to us, all right, because they dispatch second ambulances and fire trucks on fires and things like that. So we're 27% right now of the county's call volume as of last month. So that shows you how busy we are in reference to the rest of the county. There's some mutual aid numbers and stuff in here, so you'll see numbers that are a little bit skewed. You'll see 3,000 and some calls. That's just in the Solomons area. The other calls are to St. Mary's County or to other companies throughout the county. All right, so we also go other places. All right, you got something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you bring up the next one. So this is just a comparison of 2017 to 2020's call volume. Right? So we're Company 3. In 2017, we ran a total of 2780 calls, which is 26% of the county's call volume. Right? And then you add in the mutual aid, and it's a grand total of 24.3% to include mutual aid. In 2020, you can see how significantly it increased within the 3 years. We're at 3068, which is 26.6% of the call volume. In comparison to last year, we were at 3,000, almost 4,000 calls last year.
So
COVID played into that.
we've increased dramatically with call volume and things like that. So that's just to show you guys how busy we are to other companies in the county. So we talked a little bit about the ISO rating. So ISO states that you're supposed to have a fire department within every 5 miles of driving distance to anywhere. All right. When we started looking at locations, we pinpointed a spot on a map that says this is where we need to be. Okay. That is right there in Lusby Town Center, which is right next door to Ace. Everybody knows where Ace is the place, right? So, with that being said, and the 80s, when we were supposed to move to where we are now, we were originally supposed to be placed where the Bank of America used to sit. That's where our facility was supposed to be, all right? It just so happened that back then, there was a person that was really close friends with folks in the fire department. He was on his deathbed. He signed over a piece of property to Solomon's, and that's where we landed. Because it didn't cost a nickel, he gave us that land to live. All right, that's why our station was built there when we were actually supposed to be in Lusby Town Center. So it's identified way back in the 80s of where we should be. All right, and that was from county planning and stuff. But that 5-mile circle from where we're at, and Captain Hargrave will show you, that's currently where we sit at 13155 H.E. Truman Road. All right, and the other marking that's over in the corner is where our substation fits. All right, that has to be there to encompass a 5-mile ISO, which makes all the other expenditures go along with it with the second facility.
When we talk about that, we're talking about drive distance, so you talked about going from the main station to Drum Point. These red areas right here are outside of the 5-mile drive distance from that address, which means that's why that substation is going.
Okay? So if we move to our new facility, where it's proposed, right next door to Ace, that encompasses the entire first loop. All right? So that's why we chose that spot, to make sure that our community was covered, that it covered our ISO, and hopefully it would decrease some folks' potentially insurance rates. I do know that when I started in 2012, I did my first ISO. They get done every 5 years. We were at a 6. We're at a 610. You'll always be a 10 because of the fact that you're not a hydrant area. We started at a 6. 5 years later, when that came back in, we bumped it down to a 4, which means folks saved money. The last time that I did it, we bumped it down to a 3. So we're currently right now a 3 and a 10. All right, so the hydrant areas reap the reward, and the non-hydrant areas, it doesn't help. Okay, so just to be transparent about that. Okay, so there's some folks that helped out, and some folks that doesn't, because you don't have fire hydrant. Okay? So you might ask why we look at members' homes. So when we look at membership, coming from a career department, I worked at a station in Prince George's County, which is roughly 1 million people. All right, there's 52 stations in that county. I had 4 people that worked with me on a fire truck on a daily basis. 2 of us rode the ambulance, 2 of us rode the fire truck. 1 service. All right, 1 fire service, 1 EMS service. That's all you get. When it's done, it's done. In Calvert County, we're broken down in such a geographical area that we have so much apparatus, we can't staff it all. There's no way. You would never be able to afford to live here if we put career staff on every piece of apparatus, but that's the number of stations that we have. So we brought the membership game to it. Okay? You saw we started at 67 folks back in the 50s. We're currently now, I think this month we're about 163. That encompasses people that run all the time, lifetime members which have served there 15+ years, people that are associate members, and associate member are folks that do our paperwork for us a lot of times, and fundraising and all that type of stuff. But we had to look at the fact that we still have home response. It means that I get up out of my house in the middle of the night at Drum Point, I race to the firehouse, I staff a piece of apparatus, I come back to help. Okay? That's just the tax money that we pay, which is why our taxes are so low. There's not a thing that we can do about it, but we have to deal with that. So we look at 61% of our folks live in the Lusby area. That means when that station moves up there, my response time decreases to that station in the middle of the night if they don't have proper staffing or to get 3-4 trucks out on the street, which happens on a random basis. All right, ambulances right now are covered by 2 career staff, and then we have a 3rd ambulance which we run out the door, which is staffed by volunteers. So the backstory on that is when COVID hit, about 5 years ago, I as a chief started asking for assistance because we were so busy. About 85% of the call volume that we have that runs out of here are EMS related calls. Okay? 3 ambulances on the street at Solomon's on every given day happens at least 3 to 4 times a day. they're gone, they're gone. We transfer other companies down. However, this plays a part into that. We asked for that career staffing when COVID hit because there was many folks that couldn't come and volunteer anymore because of their jobs wouldn't allow them to. Okay, so we started that staffing. With the graces of the county, they implemented that staffing. We also have a paramedic ambulance resource, which is ALS. Your normal ALS resource was coming from Prince Frederick, next to Kenmore Liquors. So response time from there to our first due. Now we house that in quarters. So the first paramedic unit on a normal call, if they're not out for service already, is coming to you from Solomon. So we have an integrated staffing of 2 career, 1 ALS and 1 BLS unit. So there's 4 career personnel that bind our EMS unit. And then we staff the other. 61% of the membership comes out of Lusby. 26% of that comes from other places, which is outside of our Solomon's first due area. It could be St. Leonard's, St. Mary's, out of state that comes down to run, and 13% of that comes from the Dow and Solomon's area. So again, showing the need to be centrally located to move closer to our membership that's coming out for home response. We looked at our population. This is on the census from 2010 because it's the only thing we had to work with. In 2010, there was 21,398 people that lived in our first due area. That's Solomon's, Dow, and Lusby. Okay? 90% of that population is in Lusby. All right? The town center, the Ranch Club, Drum Point, places like that that are high density areas. 2% of them are in Dow, and 8% of it is in Solomon's. Again, showing the need that we need to be closer to our response area and to our population. 2020 statistics. Our total was 4,182 calls. All right, 3,189 of those calls were in our first due area. That's from the 301 to the 313 box, and it's broken down up here by that call box. Dow is our busiest area. We run about 800 calls a year out of there, and it's because we have the nursing homes and things like that. Asbury, we have all of the events that happen at the Marine Museum. So that's our busiest area, which is right next to our station. But what we had to look at when we did our statistics was where are we responding to as an overall, all right? And Captain Hargrave will point out the assignment areas, and you can see them on the board. So 312 is you guys.
Right,
Good.
so 301, 302 box, like Chief Ford was saying, they got 993 calls last year, by far the busiest single area. However, if you look at everything north of the southern connector, right, so that encompasses the 3, 9, 10, 11, which are your Ranch Club boxes, 312, which are you fine folks here at Drum Point. Then you have the 304 and 305, which is off of Olivet and off of H.T. Truman, okay? So if you add up all these calls, all the other boxes combined, north of Solomon's and Dowell, they ran 3,189 calls. So that's everything north of the southern connector, the church and the roundabout right there.
So that also plays back to why the need to move there is because that 3,189 is closer to you guys. Okay. So that's just another graph that shows you the breakdown from 2012 to 2020, and I'll let Captain Hargrave explain that one to you as well.
Yeah, so we just talked about the call volume, right? So, but you can see the growth. Red is blue, I'm sorry, is 2012, and red is 2020. You can see the 302 box hasn't grown. It's stagnant. It's where it is. There's no more development down in the Solomon's Dowell area. I think there's one parcel that's being developed right now in Dowell, but that's 5 units per year for the next 5 or 10 years, right? So there's nowhere to grow. All the growth is north of the southern connector, Lusby Town Center. And this the graph shows. The 9, 10, 11 boxes again, the Ranch Club, you can see the increase. 150 calls right there. 304 and 5, that's off of Appeal Lane, the senior center there, and all of H.C. Truman right there, so you can see the increase there.
All right, so this pretty much just breaks it down in the end, and my eyes are a little bit, so I get Rick to kind of go over the numbers for you and stuff like that, but the important part is the box at the bottom once he explains it to you, and that'll also show you the need.
Right. So this is based off percentage of growth, right? From 12 to 20, you can see the 304 box has increased 31.5%. Right, 310, 9, those are all the Ranch Club again. You can see the growth there, the percentage wise. The 312, which you guys grew by 2.7%. But you can see the growth, right? The 302 box, which is down in Solomon's, it only grew 5%. You see this chart again just shows the growth in a different way percentage wise.
All right. The important part to look at the bottom of that is when we go to this proposed location, we talk about the response time, that national response time average. By us moving next door to the ACE, all right, that helps our response times by 97.4% to our entire community. Because that 1.5 miles moves brings us closer to our density area for population and our call volume, and it only increases south, Dow Road to Solomon's by 1 minute to 2 minutes. All right, now you take into fact that we can't do anything about weather, we can't do anything about traffic or accidents or things like that. But that also shows you how more efficient we can be from that location, all right, when it comes to time. Okay? So, that pretty much gives you the facts. Those facts came from Calvert County Fire Rescue, not from Solomon, so there's nothing to flood. Okay? We're bringing you 100% factual information because we want to be transparent and we want to give you that information as a community. So we'll open the floor up for questions. Once that's done, if there are no further questions, Mr. Jones is going to ask for a hand vote, yes or no. God bless you. We hope you all vote yes. If you don't, that doesn't mean that we're not going to support you either way. All right, that's your freedom. Okay, we'll be here tomorrow. Yes, sir.
Are there any other options? I mean, and who's donating that one? That's a joke.
Okay, so there's no going to be donations. All
What was
right.
that?
Our project is being funded by Calvert County government. All right, we're working in a partnership with these guys and the Calvert County Commissioners. They've identified the need. We already have funding for land. Where that land is, we don't know. Okay? What we have to be concerned about is where we're going to put it because we have to plan not for tomorrow, but 50 years from now. Okay?
All right.
So could we stay where we're at? Certainly we could. But it costs a dime for property? It absolutely wouldn't. However, the building costs are going to be the same, or with the inflation that's going on, probably increase.
Does the existing facility to return over to the county and do what?
So that's in the works. What we're looking at is because that parcel was donated to us, all right, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. President, we're looking at right now doing a land swap. So the county will purchase that land for us. We would in turn give the property where we sit now to Calvert County, and then what they put there is their business. Could be a library, could be who knows what, but that would go back to the county. That would put our interest into our new facility. We're not looking at taking anything with us, it's just to get that land and get to the appropriate place to serve you better.
We will take our fire trucks with us.
And we've looked at numerous parcels, just kind of like we were talking about. We've looked at numerous parcels, and there's just nothing available.
Right.
Within that area that we need.
Within the area that we need, and the property, the proposed location that we're talking about is really
Do they think it's
pretty
an
much
even
one
spot?
property that'll house us.
That ace land
It's
for the
not
other
quite
land, and the
even
county's not gonna.
By the lay of the land, but we have to look at what's best for the community in the end. Even if we get our facility and get it where we want to serve you guys better, that's what counts for us. Yeah.
What is the cost going to be for the building?
So I will turn that to Mr. Jones, because he's the one that has some of the budgeting, and Terry can probably fill in on some of that as well.
So currently, down the road for fiscal year 26 is when our funding starts for our facility, no matter where we put it. And we're budgeted somewhere, at the end of the day, about $15 million. But that was based off of pre-inflation costs. So there's no way of knowing truly what it will be at that time frame. We're also doing these meetings for everybody so that we can maybe move this process up a little faster. to where we can get it done a little quicker and not have to wait till 26. However, that's purely on what the county is willing to do with their funding, and the county commissioners make that decision. So funding wise, like I said, we have about 15 million currently, but that could change based off of construction costs. I know there's been some projects the county's done where the construction costs recently have come in way more than they expected, just simply by materials. Material costs have doubled in some places.
108%.
408% increase in materials. Wow. So, I don't know if Mr. Jones, if I missed anything.
No, he's absolutely right. So the thing we need to remember is that with actually going through the whole design of the building, we're not quite sure what that cost would be per square footage, because the building they currently have doesn't house all the apparatuses. So when we get a building to be built, or they design it, I should say, they were correct in saying that they're going to do it for 50 years, and it will make sure that it includes all pieces of apparatus to be housed in that. What that size is, that's unknown. There's so many boundaries and setbacks and, different things.
Stormwater management, stuff like that, and also, we'll look at, and including in that money also is architectural engineering fees, so that they can design it, they'll put it out to bid, so on and so forth for the design, and then they'll put it out to bid for construction.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how much it costs for the Prince Frederick Fire Department?
I think that they
That's
were
reasonable.
about 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And then, so understand something when it comes to those facilities. You're getting a full-service facility, that's one firehouse. That runs fire trucks, it runs ambulances. When you talk about Prince Frederick, that's not apples to apples. Prince Frederick Fire Department runs fire trucks, they don't run ambulances. Prince Frederick Rescue Squad runs ambulances and no fire trucks.
Oh, okay.
So you have to take the cost of one facility and the second facility and push that together under one roof, and now you have one building, so that cost is going to be greater because the apparatus that we have to serve the citizens. So you're looking, I think one was 12, the other one was 7 to 8.
7.5, yeah.
So,
Prince Frederick Fire Department, I think, is about 29 to 30,000 square feet, and it's about 12 million, and the rescue squad is about 7,000, it was about 7,500.
that was about 7 million, I think it was.
Yeah, 7.5 million, yeah.
So take all that and push it together, that's why our costs are a little higher. Yes, ma'am.
I'm very aware that it's very critical that you raise money and raise funds.
Yes, ma'am.
For your services. So, Prince Frederick, I believe, I know I have, put a hall in that they can rent out. Are there plans for that here?
So-
Because we're in short supply of reasonable places to.
Here's what I'll tell you. Here's the proper answer. We're gonna build a training facility, okay?
Uh-huh.
We can't go out and say that we're gonna build this massive hall for a nice place to be.
Yeah, I got it.
So our hopes are that we have a room that's big enough that we could potentially divide up so that we can have classes and things like that. And that's the most important part to us. We currently live in a facility, and our training facility is in a trailer that I went to middle school in. I'm 50 years old, and it was there before I got there. So we had to take our training area and turn it into a bunk room because we didn't have enough place for people to sleep. So we had to go get that trailer. It was donated to us by the county. We paid the cost to have it set up, and we remodeled it so that we would have a place to even hold a class. Maryland Fire Rescue Institute, which is MIFRE, that gives us all of our training, would not come down and teach at our facility because we don't have adequate place to teach. So we had to go out and make a place for our people to train so they would bring the programs to us. Since then, I think Solomon's probably holds the most classes in Calvert County. I think we were booked for 6 months every single night of the week there was a class. So if you look at that type of stuff, that goes into that facility so we can run 2 classes at a time. We were running one in our engine bay, and we were running our little classroom that was outside that you could see 20, 30 people in maybe the max. That's wall to wall. Yes, ma'am.
Well, the proposed apartment complex that's coming in have an effect one way or the other on the number.
So yeah, so when we looked at some of our studies and stuff like that, all of the growth area is in Lusby Town Center. We're looking at an apartment building that's going up there. I think it's 200 units if I'm not mistaken. So our growth area is in the Ranch Club, it's in Lusby Town Center, it's in those places. So again, that kind of pushes that need to be closer to that population area.
It's where the land is.
That's the only thing that's left.
Hardly any land left down in Dallas.
And if you look at north of Cove Point Road, everything is either covered by Dominion, they own it, or a park, or the nuclear power plant. So there's really nowhere to go. They're wildlife refuge areas for the most part. So the growth area is just here.
So when you say you're looking at, the harbor, the piece of land that's running.
So that big piece of land, everybody knows where Old Costa Road used to cut through? From there to the east. That's the proposed location. All the way back to Route 4 to the east.
Is it for sale?
Right now? Yeah. Sir, do you have another question?
Well, no, the lot next to Ace is not owned by the county. The idea, again, is to buy it and recoup the cost from the other spot.
Correct.
And you have no clue what they would possibly do with the old firehouse land?
I have no idea.
We're getting ready to go through an election terms here, so that could change by November. So I'm not considering telling you something, then if you get 2 or 3 new members and you're on the board and they shut it down. So at this point, no, I don't want to say anything as far as speculate, that's all it is.
Any other questions that we can ask you? So here's what I'll tell you guys. If you think of questions that you have to ask, we'll 100% do our best to answer it. If we don't have the information, we'll try to do our best to get you the information. So there's 2 ways that that can happen. All right, we're having a town hall meeting at Solomon's Volunteer Rescue Squad and Fire Department, which is our main station at Dow Road and Route 4, on July 9th at 7 o'clock in the evening. That's going to be a public forum to give anybody that we've missed HOAs wise to come in and ask questions. All right, that's going to be our big to-do. We also, if you want to do it by email,
It's questions@sbrsfd.org.
so there's some frequently asked questions on there that were posed to us by the county government. We answered those questions. If you have another question, send it to us, and then we'll email it back to you if you don't want to get out and come visit us on the night. Okay? Currently, just to give you guys a heads up of where we're at right now, we've met with every homeowners association that we can get to at this point. We have our town hall meeting, and we have to go talk to the Ranch Club or Co-Acre. All right, those are our last 2. So we've touched our entire community, and if you guys haven't seen it yet, it wasn't a fund drive letter. There was a letter sent to every residence in our first 2 area that stated the same facts that we were talking about here tonight, so that we can make sure that we touch every single citizen that we serve in our first 2 area. So we're going out of our way to make sure that we're transparent and again to support the citizen. So other than that, I guess we'll turn it over to Mr. Jones, and he will pose a vote to you guys if you don't have any further questions.
No more further questions?
Before you
Somebody
do
have any
that,
information? Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, just before you do that, and before you guys leave, I want to thank you, but I also want to remind folks that, you know, in addition to coming and getting us in an ambulance, or coming and putting the fire out in our house, these guys do a lot of other stuff for us. Most specifically, probably, and the one that benefits us the most, after major storm damage, and we have trees down across the roads, these guys are the first responders. And they do that because they need to get those roads cleared so they can get through for other problems. So they're the first ones who get out and cut the trees off the roads and make it so you can get through. So I just want to thank you for that too.
Yay.
The community events that we do, we're at every single community event we can go to. I think we saw like 3,000 children last year through fire prevention, station visits, and then God knows how many thousands of people we see on the island during Tiki Bar and fireworks and concerts and all that stuff.
We'll be on the island this week.
You're looking at about 30 to 50 people for each event that comes out and supports those things. And we're at every single school and every daycare that calls us. So we do a lot for free. So that saves you guys an enormous amount of money. So that's why we're here to help you. We support you guys. We're hoping you will support us.
Okay. Well, with all that being said, we can do a raise of hands, show who all's in favor of supporting Solomon to move going north. Okay.
Okay, we'll try to get back, and we can get this done and get out of here. A couple remarks. With all the absentee ballots we got on the budget and all the attendance we have here, we meet the requirement for a quorum. So it will be an official meeting. There's not a lot of other business other than to approve the budget, and that's the main thing. So we'll move on with that. I have a few remarks I want to make. First off, I want to embarrass Gina and have her stand up for a second. Okay, Gina Swatward has been one of our board members for the past term. So she's always involved. She helps do the welcome baskets and buckets for the newcomers. She gets out there in the mud and stuff and helps us collect on our cleanup days. She's just been a valuable asset to us. So thank you very much.
Can I just say in response quickly?
No.
No, not quickly, take your time.
All right. I enjoy being part of the board for the last 3 years. These are a great group of people that volunteer and who are very concerned about the community. They listen to your concerns and, if possible, do what they can. However, sometimes things are just out of their control. Right? I hope you continue to support this board and future board members. Again, your concern and suggestions are very important to me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Okay, also quickly embarrass Susan Rourke. Susan Rourke is our newest board member. Will be taking her spot on the 1st of July. So welcome, Susan. She's a longtime resident of the Point, so good job there. Okay, Jenna mentioned, your input is valuable to us, whether it's complaints or praise or whatever. That helps us focus on what we need to do. Now, we can't always do it immediately. We have to prioritize stuff. We have the same problem that you all have in getting contractors to do work. So, bear with us, but we do take them, we take all your inputs. Just one recent, we got Ria's got a spreadsheet of a couple, 4 pages of projects that we've got. A lot of it focuses on stormwater management. And we're working down that list. So we'll get to you if we can. Sometimes it's a question of, well, is it really our responsibility or yours? And we try to work with you to make that determination. Clearly, if it's in the right of way or on the road or something like that, we're going to work it. If it's in your yard, then that's another issue. We'll work with you and work on those kind of problems. One recent example was a neighbor of mine almost lost his boat trailer off the boat ramp over on Elkins and Riverside. What we discovered was that the end of the boat ramp is a concrete ramp that goes down if you haven't used it. Concrete ramp goes down in the water. And at the end of it, he discovered, much to his dismay, that it dropped off over 2 foot. What had happened was all the fill that was in there had washed out. Some of it because people get up there, gun their boat, they run up onto the trailer and wash the stuff, and over time it washes that stuff out. Well, anyway, we got in there and we fixed that. We put rock in there. I think we're in good shape. But if you or your friends use that, keep in mind a couple things. That ramp was probably built back when most of the boats going in there were 17 foot. Okay, now if you go in there with a 25-foot boat on a tandem axle trailer at low tide, you might be in trouble. So if you plan accordingly, if you got a bigger boat especially, look for higher tide periods. If you've got a small boat, it's probably not a problem. Try not to gun your engine when you run it up in there. That helps us preserve that area. But I think we're in good shape now, so if you or your friends use it, pass that on. Let's see. Okay. I guess one other thing, and this is not really so much for the community, but just a reminder, elections are coming up. Primary voting is starting, early voting starts on the 7th. There will be an early voting center at Southern Community Center this year. In case you haven't heard, the county has actually expanded their early voting centers, so it won't just be in Prince Frederick. There'll be one down here, one up there, and a couple more up north. So keep that in mind as it comes around. It's an important civic thing. I guess that's all I have for that. I got a couple more things to say about our beach, and I'll cover that in a little while. Committee reports. You want to start with roads?
Yeah.
A quick summary of what's going on there.
Well, you mentioned the boat ramp, I guess that's not roads, but anyway. Chris Franklin, our new project manager, is, as Mike said, been working with these 15 stormwater management sites, 15, 16 or so, and he's been in touch with contractors, local contractors, to try to take them a couple at a time and progress through the list. He's also working he also works with soil conservation for anything in the critical area. You have to get separate permits and so on. He's also working on this year's paving project and should have a statement of work to me by this weekend, which I can then put the ad in the paper for the paving and also send out requests for proposals to various contractors that we always request proposals from. And also we repaired the well rings at Surf Street. And, you know, there's Foot Bridge and Surf Street comes up to Pine and Lake. The well rings were deteriorating pretty badly, and we had Grover's Landscape come in and do a repair on those. That's it.
Environment, do you have any report on environmental issues?
We're looking pretty good in terms of phragmites control. I did a survey today and took some pictures to send to our specialist, Mark Smith, invasive species specialist, and to see what we need to treat this year.
Okay. All right, and then
Jenny?
also I want to thank Jenny Rice. Raise your hand. Okay. Jenny started something called the Ivy League, and the purpose of that is, besides laughing, but as you probably noticed, a lot of our trees are girdled, I mean, covered in ivy. Invasive species. Well, she started something, and it's patterned after some other groups, but to get groups together to go in and basically girdle that ivy around the tree and cut it, so kill it, which will help preserve our larger trees. And Jenny, do you want to say anything? I assume you'll start again when tip season's over?
Correct.
Okay.
I start up in November.
All right. Okay, welcome back, Buckets.
Yeah, just real quickly, you know, it's been very successful, continues to be a success. We've distributed 142 welcome buckets since we began the program in 2017. There are an additional 131 people who, you know, I send a letter out to people saying, you know, come in, meet me, pick up your hang tag, so on and so forth. So of all the letters I send out over the past 5 years, 131 never responded. So that's fine. But anyway, it's going quite well. And Jenna, Asha, and Ginny are on the Welcome Bucket Brigade, and Jenna is going to continue. She gives me her word. How's that put me on the spot? And Ace Hardware continues to donate buckets thanks to the letter that Cindy Andre delivers to them every so often.
And other local merchants.
And other local emergencies.
We're very good. Do you have any, Maggie, do you have any updates on the safety
Yes.
committee?
Mike mentioned a few minutes ago about the fire department, and when there's storms that come in, they respond through the roads and such. So I'm going to be getting with my committee members to upgrade some of our emergency equipment. We haven't taken a look at that in a while, so it's a much needed thing. So I will be upgrading the to-go packs and looking to see what else we need. We have ham operators. We're in communication with FEMA when things like this come in. So we'll be working on that because storm season is just around the corner.
Thank you. Okay, we have another committee called Planning Committee. Well, what does that do? Well, plans. So our current big plan, and we've talked about it at several other meetings and been in newsletters and so forth, and that's to try to do some work at our community beach on Beach Road, Beach Drive, to basically improve the condition down there and start holding the sand better and enable us to clean it up and get some more vegetation in there and basically preserve it. So we've, part of the funding for that was approved in the special taxing district this year. We have a application in for a grant from the state, haven't heard yet. I expect probably next month, I hope. We'll hear on that. But we have continued to start to work the process of getting permits. And it's, if you think getting a permit for your house is something, try this. We're in a coastal waterway. You gotta have Maryland MDE, Department of Environment. The county's gonna eventually get into it. We have to work with the Corps of Engineers because it goes out into so-called navigable water. So there's a whole joint permit process that's going on right now. We've started with Coastline Design, who's our consultants, who are helping us put this thing together. I thought things were going pretty smooth. We met with the MDE representative down at the beach, and she seemed to be pretty impressed with what our plan was there, and think that we had the right stuff put together. Turns out Corps of Engineers has got a lot more digging questions, no pun intended. So that's where we're at now. Can't give you much more progress other than that. And hopefully we'll get through this permitting issue and can actually start moving rock.
I have a question.
Yes.
I do the beach patrol down at the beach, kind of jump point. I do the beach patrol down there. Is there any way that we can have the blacktop that's faded away?
That's part of the,
Because right now we can only use
No,
a
that's-
half of the beach.
I know, but that's part of this whole restoration project.
Okay.
We cleaned up a lot of asphalt down there, after
There's
one
a
of the
lot more.
storms.
There's a lot more of it that breaks apart and that
No, I know.
floats in the
No, I
water.
hear you, and that's part of the remediation process.
Right. Okay. And anybody that comes down there to use the beach, rakes are welcome. You can come down and rake it up. Help us clean it up.
Yeah.
Can I just add something there
Yeah.
with regard to that? We bought a drag mat,
Yeah, you said you
and the
the other
tires
day.
would come in, but not the wheels. So we're waiting for the
Okay.
wheels, and then we'll get the tires
So-
mounted. And then Joe Bateman, every
Right.
so often, will be able to come down.
So the
and
rest of the
special
sand,
tires for
the rest of the
tractor.
sand that's piled up down there, is that gonna get spread out, or can you take it like
Well,
where the pond is?
We'll use that, we're preserving that right now
Right.
until we get the go-ahead on the rest of the project.
Okay.
We'll probably end up using some of that
Okay,
sand.
because a lot of the kids go down and break bottles and stuff, because there's a concrete slab that's down there with rebar, with the metal sticking out of the top of it. And I've gone in there numerous times and picked up glass where they just do what they wanna do, so it's kinda hard when people come down, you can tell them, don't swim on this side because you can't get out there because of the tree roots and the piles of blacktop, when you just got a little bit of beach left, so. I mean, we do what we can do, we take out and throw it against the shoreline to help hold the sand back, but it's like way out there.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can I add something to my roads report? The Bay Drive Causeway, the repair of that, it had a lot of erosion with a storm over the winter. And the permits are in, Wards Marine does have the permits, but they're waiting on material and some of the projects that they had sort of coming ahead of us. But it's out there on the list as well.
All right. I skipped Finance Committee because I figured you could come and talk about that and leading into the budget. Which is why we're here.
Okay, now,
Now,
well, there's been a couple of budget documents that you picked up, this year's budget, the balance sheet, really no surprises there. Just you compare it year to year, I think you'll see us being very steady and straightforward on each line item. There will be no surprises in any of those. It's, I like to look at the profit and loss statement, budget versus actual. It's what we budgeted and then what we've actually spent. This covers almost the whole year. And it's pretty much gonna look like this at the end of our fiscal year. And in just about every case, we are right spot on with our budget that you all approved last year. And maybe even under, we've been able to save money here and there. We're always on the lookout to save money. So I think as you go down each of those lines of the profit and loss budget versus actual, you'll see that we are pretty much where we plan to be and where you voted for last year's budget. Which brings us to this year's budget. That's another page, looks like this. These are the general categories that are voted on every year. We had a finance committee that put this together. Thanks very much to all the folks on the finance committee. But if you're ever interested, we welcome anybody that can come and sit with us for just an afternoon. Usually it's what it is, just to go through each budget line item. There's no other way to do it than to just go through every single line item. But it takes 2 hours, and I think it's a great service to all of the property owners to have more eyes on the budget. So you'll see the fiscal year 2023 budget. These numbers are going to be so close to 2022. We're going to be facing a lot of inflation this year, so I'm not sure what this is going to look like this time next year. Fuel prices, asphalt prices, I can't even imagine what that's going to look like when we get the bids in. But we're in very good shape financially, so I think we can take on anything that's coming down the pipe. But there will be changes and increases that we just don't know about yet. And then some lines you'll see, we've tried to reduce costs, professional fees, things like that. We were able to eliminate some of our lawyer fees, so squeeze it down every line that we possibly can. If you have any questions on individual lines on the proposed budget, now's the time. Yes, please.
Not really on the budget, but at the bottom it says about people who don't pay dues. Are there a lot of people in the community that don't pay them, or is it just a small percentage?
Well, yeah, there's a lot. Not a lot. Where rate is what,